Now more of Making the Turn on the PGA Tour Network.
Hey, joining me now, a good friend, special guest, Jason Sutton, master professional at the Dana Rader Golf School. That's at Ballantyne Resort in Charlotte, North Carolina. Jason teaches all levels of golfers, but he really specializes, and we don't do this very often, in teaching low handicappers and mini tour players. Morning, Jason.
Good morning, Peter. How are you?
Good. It's nice to be with you. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm delighted. You sent me a couple of topics, and I'd love to go over them in order. And the first one was, and I just want to let our audience know where we're going to start together, the importance of changing what the club face is doing during the swing and then changing the shape or plane. Go ahead.
Absolutely. We see a lot of players, obviously, that have ball flight errors and more importantly, slicers. And, the first thing we ask them is, what do you think you're doing? And, they always go for the plane first. I'm coming over the top or I'm swinging too far to the left. And I try to get them to understand that, 85% of the direction the golf ball starts is the club face. So, that's the first thing that, you have to attack is changing that ball flight, getting the ball to go the same direction you're swinging, and then you're going to have a much easier time, fixing the plane and, getting the club back on plane because, so many people are struggling because they're trying to, swing, more from the inside. But, if the club face is open 30 degrees, the ball is still going to go to the right or maybe even farther to the right. So, in the same way with hookers, hookers are, ball's going to the left, club face is shut. They keep trying to swing more from the inside and it gets worse. And you got to go and, change your golf swing in the proper order, which is something that, we really stress at the golf school is, what's going on with the club face first, and then we, go for the shape after that.
Now, doesn't that apply, and this is just an observation, but doesn't that apply equally to the really good player and the poor player in that we're seeking to have minimal club face rotation in a good golf swing?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, we see it probably more, the good players are going to tend to be more, underplaners, shut facers, and then, the poor players are going to be open face and swinging over the top. So, you try to get those things matched up to get, whether it's an average player just trying to get a playable ball flight or it's a tour player where we're trying to dial it in and get the ball to fall 2 yards to the left or, get the ball to fall 2 yards to the right. You better have good control of that face, and especially with with the better players that I teach, they've learned to do that pretty well. But I'm not afraid to change a grip with a tour player. That's the first thing I look at is what's affecting the face. Is it the grip? Is it something at the top of the backswing, or maybe they're getting open or shut at the top, or is it the release? Is it how the arms and the body are working through impact that is affecting the face? So you've got to look really close at that area, before you really say, okay, what kind of plane are we working with?
If the 85 shooter goes out onto the practice tee by him or herself and is listening to our program now, what kind of a drill can they work on? What can they do to start to minimize club face rotation, and in this particular case, as you described, minimizing rolling that club face open?
That's a great question. I think, first you have to identify, obviously, what kind of pattern are you dealing with? First thing I ask my students, is, especially on the first lesson, is, where does your bad miss go? Because that's the first thing I want to correct is, is it too far to the right or is it too far to the left? So, if it's too far to the right, then you're going to start with, maybe changing the grip a little bit, making sure it's in the fingers and strengthening it. And then, once you can feel like you can hit the ball fairly straight, I think for the average player, kind of that building block approach is great. Starting out with, waist high to waist high swings, because, ultimately that's going to be, really the most important part of your golf swing is what's happening from delivery to impact and then post impact. So, if you can get them to hit it solid from waist high and then through to waist high, obviously it's going to help their full swing and their short game, but they're going to learn what impact feels like and, what a solid shot feels like, which is huge.
Clearly well, maybe not so clearly, but one of the problems, obviously, that a recreational player has who isn't a fine player is a tendency to get a bit steep. Now, obviously, we've got the roller openers where that club face opens and that whole thing goes to the inside, and a lot of teachers like to call that the death move. But we also have that group that gets steep going back, but perhaps more so that steep going down, and that's Disasterville too. What kind of drill do you like to have for either going down or coming up for Steepville?
Well, I mean, I like to use a lot of aids. I like to use some dowel rods or, a plane stick or something that's going to give them a good visual reference. First off, if you're working on your takeaway and trying to, hit the club on a decent plane. But then coming down, I like probably the best ball hitting drill is just to hit balls with a closed stance. Assuming that you, again, have the club face pretty square, maybe the ball is going a little to the left, close the stance, close the shoulders up a little bit, and then feel what it feels like to do the opposite, which is maybe swing a little bit more underneath the plane, swing to the right. I think, golf instruction is, so important because it allows the student to feel the opposite feel. Because if you go out and try to change it on your own, I'm really big on, opposite rehearsal swings. And you see the good players do it all the time is, how do you create that feel? Well, you got to feel like you change it, 2 miles to change it a couple of inches. And I think, as soon as you can get the student to feel something opposite, you're going to have a good success with some long-lasting change.
You made an interesting note that you sent along to discuss Ricky Fowler's swing and why his coach did a great job in leaving the unusual moves alone. Discuss that with me.
Yeah, I think, we here at the golf school, we really get, a lot of talented juniors. And I think, as golf professionals and teachers, we've got to be very careful not to, try to make their golf swings look perfect. And I think, sometimes we don't spend enough time on the important things, or what I call the absolutes in the golf swing, and, in the short game, and teaching the kids how to score rather than just trying to make their swings look like, somebody that they are showing them on video. I think I always said Jim Furyk's dad was the greatest teacher ever, that he was instinctual enough to not change his golf swing. I mean, imagine if we would have, somebody would have got a hold of him and tried to flatten his left arm. We never would have heard of Jim Furyk. So I thought, the things that Ricky Fowler does in his golf swing are great. And then the important things, swinging the club on plane in the downswing, his impact position, his sequence is perfect. And leave those little funky things alone, and, don't ruin talent. I think that's a difficult thing a lot of times. I've probably, been guilty of it earlier in my career, trying to change too many things with some kids that can really play. So I think you just got to be really careful with that.
How do you try to, and this is kind of a delicate thing, I suppose, how do you work with parents to facilitate a relationship between you, the parent, and the child so that you're given enough room to work with the junior, but you respect the relationship between the parent and the child so that you've got a fluid situation going with regard to the golf swing as opposed to the interpersonal relationships, obviously?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think it's something that I've worked really hard on, with using some tact a lot of times with the parents, because I know it's great for the parents to want to be involved. But, right up front, especially when I get a kid that's, trying to play tournaments and wants to play in college or professionally, is, they have to understand that you're the expert, and I'm going to help your kid as best I can. And, their input is valuable as far as, I love when they go and watch them play and give me some feedback on some of the shots he's hitting or her. And, that's all I really need from you. And you just got to be upfront with them. And most of them will understand, because they want to get involved, but then if they get too involved, I think it hurts the kid. And, you just have to set those boundaries right up front that, okay, I'm going to be his coach. You can be the eyes off the lesson tee for me and give me some feedback. But when they start to, say, well, what about this in his swing? I'll just say, hey, hold on. This is my area. You encourage your child and, be there for him, take him to the tournaments. and then let me handle the rest of it. It's definitely a touchy situation sometimes.
Hey, it's good to be with you this morning. Let's do this again, Jason. I appreciate
I would
the time
love
very
to, Peter.
much.
Thanks for having me on.
It's a great pleasure. That's Jason Sutton, everybody, master professional at the Dana Rader Golf School. They are located at the Ballantine Resort in Charlotte, North Carolina. For more on the school, to get yourself up there, it's a wonderful place to be. DanaRader.com. That's all A's, DANARADAR.com. We'll be right back.